Good evening, all. Before we start the session, I would request everybody to mute your audio and turn off your cameras so that we have a smooth streaming. One more request, we'll wait for some others to join for a few minutes. Thank you. Good evening, one and all present here for the session. On behalf of Rotary Club of Dombivli Downtown, I extend a very hearty welcome to all the students and teachers who are present here for the Inspire 2022 Session 1. Inspire is an initiative by the Rotary Club of Dombivli Downtown to provide the young minds with an insight into various aspects of modern world like careers, leadership, financial awareness, fitness, education, etc. by facilitating talks with experts who are extraordinary in these fields. Such talks by the expert would help you to broaden your horizons at an age where you're actively pondering over the career of your choice. In our first part of today's session, we have amongst us one such eminent speaker who is an educator, a researcher, a mind specialist who would help us to unleash our true potential by helping us understand and take control of our minds. Apart from bringing experts in face-to-face interactions, we would also be scouting for young talent and provide them with a platform to showcase their mastery in various fields and also the extent that they went to achieve it. In our forthcoming session, we would be looking out for such gifted children from our own immediate societies. And there are many chances that it would be one among you. So in today's second session, we would be having a live interaction with an enterprising young girl who is a CBSE 10th standard topper from Holy Angels School. I would like to welcome the members from various institutions like St. Mary's School, Dombivli West, Holy Angels School, Dombivli East, Omkar International School, Dombivli East, St. John School, Dombivli East, Don Bosco School, Dombivli East, Don Bosco Rita Memorial School, Kalyan. You may please communicate to others that they can join via YouTube also. Ask them to type angels on the web. Ask them to type angels on the web to join the YouTube also. We are live streaming on YouTube. We'll be starting the session in a short while. Meanwhile, I request all the participants to please mute their audios and also turn off the videos for smooth and lag-free session. Thank you. Now I request President of Rotary Club of Dombivli Downtown, Mrs. Annie Bijoy, to give the inaugural address and acquaint our viewers with the club and its activities. Mrs. Annie Bejoy.
A very good evening. Am I audible? Okay. A very good evening to all present in this session. On behalf of Rotary Club of Dombivli Downtown, I extend a very hearty welcome to all the students, parents, teachers present over here for the Inspire 2022 Session 1. Now, speaking about Rotary, Rotary is a global network of 1.4 million people, friends, leaders, problem solvers. We all unite, we come together to take action to create lasting change across the globe in our own communities and in ourselves. For more than 110 years, Rotary's people of action have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects, from literacy and peace to water and health. We are always working to better our world, and we stay committed to the end. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities as well. One of Rotary's area of focus is education and also creating leaders. This initiative by Rotary Club of Dombivli Downtown is specially aimed towards the same. I once again thank everybody for attending and hope that this will be a truly enriching session. Thank you. Over to Purnima.
Thank you, Annie. Now I take the privilege to introduce and welcome a distinguished speaker for the first session, Dr. Jaison Manjaly. Dr. Jaison is a Jasubai Memorial Chair Professor of Philosophy and Cognitive Science at IIT Gandhinagar. His research interests include curiosity, education, and moral cognition. He is the principal investigator of the Curiosity Lab at IIT Gandhinagar, which aims to develop interventions to foster curiosity in the classroom. At IIT Gandhinagar, he pioneered the establishment of Center for Cognitive and Brain Sciences. He is the former Dean of Students Affairs at IIT Gandhinagar. He is currently the coordinator of Alumni Relations and Head of Humanities and Social Sciences at IIT Gandhinagar. Thank you very much, Dr. Jaison. We can initiate the session. Thank you, Dr. Jaison.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. Hi, everybody. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
All right, awesome. So I am, as I thought, I actually teach at IIT Gandhinagar, and I run a lab called Curiosity Lab. So today we will try to I'll try to trigger some curiosity about the very idea of mind. Let's see how it works. This is going to be mostly an interactive session. So I recommend that you write your questions, comments, all in the message chat box. You are free to ask questions, free to make comments about things that we are going to discuss. In case if somebody wants to talk, if you can raise your hand, I can try to unmute you, and we can have some good discussions. Is that okay with you guys? I can see a lot of people here, Okay. All right. So since we are going to talk about mind, I'm going to ask a question about what is your idea of mind? Can somebody type in the chat box? Anybody can chat. Everyone in the meeting. Jimmy, are they allowed to write messages in the chat box?
Yes, they are allowed, sir.
Okay, they are allowed. Okay, guys, come on. Write your idea of mind. What do you think mind is? Mind helps us to create, helps us to remember. Is it okay? Go on. What else? What else? So I want your answers. This is not something that I'm going to kind of give a lecture here. I want you to participate. I want you to think. So this is a thinking matter talk. Creativity, yes. Help us to make decision, wonderful. Help us to follow the right way. Help us to analyze, good. Go on. What else? Help us to make imagination, articulate our thoughts, yes. Focus on goals, yes. Wonderful, wonderful. So now if I may ask you, is mind a thing? Where is it located? Is it what kind of entity is it? Is it located somewhere? Where does it exist? On the head? Okay, good. On the head. Okay, then in brain, yes, interesting. If it is in the brain, why do we need to use the word mind? We could have called it brain. Why do we need to call it mind if it is in the brain? What do you think? Why do we need to use the word mind if it is somewhere in the brain? Nobody is writing anything. So if the question is brain is different from mind, yeah, good. But how so? How is brain different from mind? Subhagra has written that brain is different and mind is different. How is it different? In what way do you think it is meant? We have emotional brain, limbic system. It's all part of the brain system, right? It's you have a lot of brain. Okay, I'm going to ask you a interesting question. Okay, I want you to do a thought experiment. Okay, let us think about a situation. Brain is made of billions of neurons. You have there's a lot of neurons in your brain. Let us think of taking one neuron out of it. Just remove one neuron and fix it with an artificial neuron, a silicon neuron. I think it's very much possible. So even if it, just assume that we take out one neuron out of it and we fix it with an artificial neuron, or you take out a one brain cell and you fix it with a artificial brain cell. Will there be any difference in our thinking process? Do you think that there will be any different whatsoever if you take out one brain cell and substitute it with a a silicon, this one. It is okay. Now keep removing, further, and let us assume that half of the brain is now replaced with a silicon brain. Do you think that will there be any difference whatsoever in our thinking process? So people said that mind is used, the mind we use for thinking, decision making, things like that. Okay, a lot of people are writing yes, but why do you think that there will be a maybe yes? Why do you think there will be a difference at all? What makes you think that there will be a difference at all? Say, for example, when your leg or hand is amputated, you remove the hand and you can actually use a prosthetic limb. Sometimes you can there is that heart transplantation, you can use somebody else's heart, nothing, everything works fine. Do you think that will there be any difference whatsoever if you remove half of your brain and replace it with a silicon brain? No, I want you to think about it. Okay, think. It will fail. Very unlikely it will fail. So assume that we have all the all necessary framework. Things are all this one. Maybe sometime it is very unlikely that it will fail, because it's not that we are just taking it out. We have all the proper frameworks. It's like you can remove your heart and replace it with someone else's heart. It's, of course, it's a possibility of fail, but it also can work. Assume that if it works, what would it be like? Okay, it's a lot of people are still saying that it might work, it may not work. People are a bit confused. Okay, now let us do another thought experiment. Let us assume that you are aware of computers, robots, and things like that. Do you think that humans and computers have any difference? Are they different in any sense? Are there any different whatsoever? What are the differences? Can somebody tell me what exactly is the difference? One difference that you think is the case between humans and this one. Humans have feelings, yes, and machines like or robots don't have feelings. What else? It doesn't have memory. No, it's actually quite this one. Computers have memory. It can memorize a lot of stuff. Computers can express. They can solve the problems. They can make decisions. People. You might have used computers for playing chess. Machines have parts. Yes, humans' body also has different parts. Humans have brain, yes, but brain is in principle is a processing device, like the computers have chips. They don't forget anything. No, yeah, but that's not a bad thing. Humans have feelings, so that's something that people are saying. Feelings, so like emotions. Like what are emotions? In fact, what do you think emotions are? When you feel, say, let us think about you feel pain. What is normally a pain? What is normally pain? Because that will help us to understand whether whether machines can have pain at all, or the computers can have pain, or happiness for that matter. What is happiness? What normally happens is that when you are in pain, certain areas of your brain is activated, and it actually so there is a particular stimuli coming to you, or your there's a, your sense organ is, say for example, if it's only your skin, say for example, you see a you end up seeing one of your good friend, and you are so happy about it. What happens is that you have a visual stimuli coming to you, and it is being processed in your brain, and the brain is giving you an appropriate response, and there are certain neuronal firings that is happening, and you feel happy. It's actually quite biological. If you think carefully, it is in some sense quite biological, and it is very much certain physical processes. So in principle, you can replicate some of the almost all the physical functions in an artificial systems like a computer. Computers can be extremely creative. Very recently, some of the computers programs were shut down because they were able to write very impressive, very creative stories, and they had to shut it down because they found that their computers can be used for creating fake stories, fake news. Computers can be extremely, the new the artificial intelligence systems can be extremely creative. So humans are creative, and we normally thought that that is very unique to human beings, but is now is something that an artificial systems can actually create. Being can be creative, probably at par with humans, or maybe better than them. So we normally understand the mind as something that how many of you think that mind is something that is non-physical? Okay, somebody said humans make computer. Of course, humans make computers. Even humans make everything, but humans are also made by humans, right? So if you look at careful, if you think carefully, that's matter of debate, like whether humans are created by humans and humans are creating computers. It doesn't matter much. So how many of you think that it's non-physical? So some of you told that it's something that exists in your brain, and if okay, all right, who else, anybody wants to unmute and talk a little bit about this? Anyone? Anybody would like to unmute? Okay, that's perfect. So I'm just trying to see, mind is invisible organ present in the human body. Why do you think that, why do we need to articulate an invisible stuff? What do we mean by invisible? So there is, I don't know if there is anything invisible in your body. Your body is, if you can actually dissect your body and get to know what are the parts that you have. But what if mind is nothing but a collection of brain functions? Have you ever thought about it? have you ever thought that mind is nothing but a collection of brain functions? Okay. Some people saying yes, some people are saying no. Okay. So now if I ask you to define something, like say for example, let us say a stone. A stone. Let us say, how do you define a stone? In what are the features that you use to define a stone? Normally, any physical object, any object for that matter, we normally define in terms of its properties. What are the properties that normally an object has? What are the properties of objects? Whether it is living or not, let us, for a matter of fact, let us not worry about living or living. Let us say a stone. Stone is hard, yes. What else? Stone has, so if you look carefully, stone has a shape, stone has a size, stone has a particular color. So yes, so if there are certain set of properties, there are set of, for example, a stone has a shape, size, mass, charge, whatever. So you have a certain set of properties to define an object. You take any object for that matter, any object that for that matter, whether it is a stone, whether it's a mobile phone, whether it's a a bottle, everything has a set of properties. An object is defined by its properties. So if that is the case, now if we have to understand what mind is, we need to define it in terms of its properties. Now, what do you think the properties of mind might be? So I said, so because we are trying to make sense of mind, because there seems to be a lot of confusions about very idea of mind, because primarily because we have not really paid a lot of attention to what it is. Most of the time, our idea of mind comes from various sources. We have not critically looked at the very idea of mind. Now, what I'm trying to do is to kind of nudge you to think about the very idea of mind by making you to define it by articulating its properties. So, like the way we try to articulate the concept of stone or an object as a stone or this one, so it is defined in terms of its properties. What are some of the properties of mind might be? Mind has but sentiments, okay, mind has no shape. So can you think of anything without a shape? Is there anything in the world that you think that can have things without a shape? Or water definitely has a shape, of course. It doesn't have any water has a shape. If you put together this one, there is absolutely, it is made out of matter. Therefore, it takes different shape, but it has a shape. Mind has two parts. So the challenge that sometimes that you find is that it is very, very difficult to find some of the properties, primarily because it is not a thing. Mind is not a thing, but it is a concept that we use to represent our experiential life. Say, for example, we use we have certain functions like thinking, decision making, whatever experiences like emotions. So all these functions we kind of represent as the idea of mind, but not necessarily a thing. And all of these functions, like say for example decision making, if you think is a function that humans carry out, is necessarily done by certain physical underpinnings. Say for example, your brain is good enough to make decisions. You don't need to necessarily invoke the concept of mind to understand the concept of decision making. Okay, if we had heard, then mind tell us we have been heard. Okay. For example, another thing that you normally use is to create, so for example, the language, use of language is something that, one second. Can you hear me? Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
All right, awesome. So I just got. All right. Somebody said mind is abstract. Mind is not necessarily. I am not able to hold on. Something has popped in. Okay.
Sorry, we can continue.
No, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, so so what some of the challenges that you will find with the concept of mind is that, for example, let us think of another thought experiment. What sometimes people call it as an inverted spectrum. What it means is, when I so let me try to show some, okay, it's fine. So let us think of that I am able to see a red tomato. Sometimes it is quite possible that Kriti is actually seeing a red tomato, but her experiences could be a greenish experience. What it means is that there is no way, one of the challenge with the idea of mind is it is very difficult to understand what the other person is experiencing. Can we ever, and it is extremely difficult to express what the other person really we think undergoes. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I just get frozen here sometimes. Okay. All right, coming back. So, all right. So, one of the things that I wanted to, try to convey is that mind, sometimes we normally think that, mind is, so the one of the challenge that I see with, the students, that they always think that, mind is something non-physical. I asked, my students to kind of sometimes, tell me, how do you define non-physical? Do you have any idea how, what something, when you say that something is non-physical, what would that be like? What is something non-physical that you have ever encountered? Somebody is saying that physical quantities that cannot be measured, but is there anything that, if it is physical, we normally should be able to quantify? They are not necessarily non-physical. For example, if it has got a property of physical property, for example, if you have learned physics, you know that the physical properties like, time and space, you need to, every event that takes place, you need to actually articulate the concept of space and time. If we normally try to say, something that is not physical is something that is not definable, but is there something that we normally consider as non-definable? Okay, somebody said a very interesting thing. Somebody said brain is a physical substance and mind is because the processes, the conscious product of those firings. Yes, for example, the liquidity of water emerges from the molecular structure of H2O. It is what we call it as emergent properties. So if you look at the liquidity of is an emergent property of the molecules of H2O. Similarly, what we consider as human mind or the mental functions that we talk about, like thinking, decision making, consciousness, all of those are nothing but the emergent properties of your neuronal firings. And it is very much a physical function of the brain. what I would like to tell you is that most of the time we consider mind as something that is like, something very abstract, something that is non-physical, something that is like, divine. Sometimes we consider it as, identified with things that we are not able to comprehend. But actually, if you look at scientifically, if you look at from the neuroscience perspective or a cognitive science perspective, what you normally understand is that mind is nothing but the emergent property, the property that emerges because of the neuronal firings that you have in the brain, and it is very much a part of the brain, and you can actually modify most of the functions of the mind. For example, I can actually change by making interventions in your brain. Your ability to make decisions can be altered. Your ability to think about stuff can be modified if I make if I actually mess up with your brain. So it is the way we normally understand mind is not necessarily the right way to understand mind, because we normally use a lot of commonsensical understanding of mind, but not necessarily neuroscientific cognitive science understanding of mind. Yes, so the mind is, so somebody has written that mind is a set of faculties responsible for all mental phenomena. Yes, but those mental phenomena is nothing but the part, is a function of my brain functions, is a property that emerges out of my brain functions. I can, there are a lot of experiments that we normally conduct in the lab where we measure how fast you can decide about stuff, how fast you can react to certain stimuli, which actually shows that that you can define the idea of mind by looking at the underlying brain functions. Anybody has any other questions?
So we can have question answers at the end of your session.
Okay, all right. So, so primarily that can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. Okay, good. So what I want to leave you with today is that the very idea of mind can be understood from a certain neuroscience perspective, from cognitive science perspective. It can be, you can very well define it, you can very well measure it. Some of the things that we normally do is to kind of study these processes in our labs. By using various methods, you actually make, so sometimes we use certain machines to kind of inhibit your certain brain functions. And then we measure how people react to certain things. So in principle, you can physically, we can study by the concept, the mental functions by studying the brain functions. So there is a lot of research that currently goes on, and we are able to replicate some of these brain functions, some of these mental functions in artificial systems. So the very, if you look at the way artificial intelligence has evolved, what we are trying to primarily do is to kind of replicate most of the human cognitive abilities on artificial systems, whether it is a computer, whether it is a self-driving car. We are trying to replicate a certain human cognitive functions into the artificial systems. For example, you might have you might have heard about Tesla, where there is a self, the car can drive itself. You don't need to actually be on the driving seat. So think of a scenario in which the car is driving itself and it has to make a decision whether to hit a child or an old man. What decision would the car make? What do you think would the car make? Whether the car would make a decision to hit, because it has to, there are two people crossing the road and it has to make a decision. What do you think would the car, what kind of decision would the car make? Yes, humans might stop, but suppose your brake is faulty. The brake is gone bad. You have no possibility of stopping it, but you have to this one. So do you think that so the artificial system has to make a decision? What do you think the kind of decisions that they would make? It will apply brake. I said that the brake doesn't work. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it will make a decision. It will have to make a decision. It doesn't matter what decision it takes. It might be there are multiple factors that might affect the decision, the way it has been programmed, or depending on the context, what would be the minimum damage that can be done to its passengers sitting in this one. So it's at the end is making a decision. That's exactly what humans also do. You actually make decisions depending on the context. It can be a context that you see as like, you are probably learned certain things. You have certain factors. Similarly, in an artificial systems can also make decisions, which is necessary, which is actually a mental function. So because why the artificial systems are able to make decisions, because it is nothing but a physical function, because we are actually trying to replicate the brain functions into an artificial systems by creating programs. So fundamentally, mind is not a voodoo stuff. Mind is not something that is out of the world. It is not something that is necessary, that is a non-physical stuff. Mind is nothing but the underlying brain functions. So if you are able to conceptualize mind as the brain functions, there are a lot of things that you can do with that. So there are a lot of studies that you can make. There is a lot of things that you can actually, a lot of mental functions can be replicated in the artificial systems. So that's why if you look at the frontiers of new discoveries, the frontiers of new research, is most of the time you hear a lot about artificial intelligence. Primarily, it is nothing but trying to replicate some of the underlying brain functions, and trying to create systems which can actually behave better, can actually add much better quality of life to humans. Fundamentally, what I am trying to leave you today with the thought that mind is not something that is that we cannot understand, is something that you can study, you can actually replicate by making sense of the brain functions. Okay, so I will stop today. I'll stop here, and I will take few questions if you have.
Great, sir. Such an enriching and mind-boggling session. Human mind is indeed a complex machinery that needs to be trained and developed. I'm sure this stimulating session has lubricated our thoughts, and now, thus, it's time to renovate our minds. I would request all the participants to take charge now and ask a few questions.
Yeah, somebody has asked, how can we control our mind? I don't think that that's normally the thing that we think about, like, there's a controlling mind. I don't think that you can control mind. What normally is happening is how your brain functions happens, how the neuronal firings are happening. You might be able to control it by making invasive interventions. People think that you meditate, you can it is, can you ever shut down your sense organs? You can't. You are always bombarded with informations from the world, from the surrounding that you live in. Say, for example, there is no way you can shut down the brain always works. So what you can do is to kind of probably not control the mind, decide what the surroundings can be like, so you can actually have some control on what kind of stimuli should come to me. If you decide to be in a crowded environment, or you can decide that I can be in a quiet room, and probably that might affect your thinking process. So your surroundings actually affects your thinking process, which we normally consider as a controlling of the mind. But in principle, it is very, if you look at from a science point of view, there is nothing like controlling the mind. I think you should ask questions on what does it mean by controlling mind. What I know is that it's a myth. It does not necessarily work. How does meditation help us and improve the mind? Meditation does not improve the mind. Meditation makes you probably focus on certain things. That's pretty much it. Is brain related to quantum physics? I have no idea. I think there is a lot of big talks that goes on that, there is some quantum, quantum computational activity that happens in the brain. I don't think there is any conclusive answers on those kind of stuff. How can we make use of, you are actually, the fact that you're asking me that question, you're actually making use of your mind. You are actually asking questions. That's what we do. We ask questions, we think. In order to ask questions, you think, so thinking process, you have, you make decisions. We do all those things using the brain. 100% of the brain, there is nothing like 100% of the brain. It is about brain. The interesting thing about brain is that it actually optimizes the resources. It doesn't. So there are a lot of things that goes on in your brain which are not given into your consciousness. Say, for example, you are, kind of traveling in a bus, and you are on the mobile phone. You end up, you don't bump into people. You don't consciously bump into people. So there are a lot of things that the body autonomously do without being conscious of it. That's a bit of a kind of a how do I say, exaggerated ideas that we are only using little bit of brain. You can have large amount of brain processes. Those are very problematic from a science point of view, from a neuroscience point of view. The brain is always trying to optimize the resources. The brain is not supposed to work beyond a certain this one, because otherwise, you will not be able to have a coherent thinking process. How can we stop comparing ourselves with other? I don't know how you do that. How can you increase your IQ? IQ is a very problematic concept. There's a lot of discussions about what IQ means. There's a lot of problems with the very idea of IQ. What probably have is that, how do you have an enriching, stimulating environment where you can be better at solving problems, how you would relate certain facts with other. Those things are possible if you are exposed to a certain environment, and when you are allowed to think critically about stuff, which our schools sometimes fail to do. Some of the studies have shown that the children, when they go to school, they stop asking questions. Normally the children ask questions, 5-6 questions a day. When they go to school, they reduce the number of questions they ask. So my advice to you is that start thinking critically about stuff. Start asking a lot of questions to your teachers. When they take class, make them ask them questions. It doesn't matter whether it is a right question. There's nothing like a right question or wrong questions. Keep your curiosity alive. Think critically about stuff. Don't take things the way that people, because my teacher told that might be correct. No, you should be able to critically ask questions to this one. If you are doubtful, never accept things because somebody told you so. You should accept things when you have sufficiently thought about it.
I'm sorry about the glitch.
Okay, I think there are a lot of questions coming in, but if you are pressed for time, I can stop it here.
So we can actually sum up with one important question.
What is it?
It could be helpful for all present over here. I think there are teachers, parents, students. So the question is, and the crowd that we are addressing are the teenagers.
Right.
The question is, teenage years are exciting, but they are hard at the same time. So is it possible that one can take control over the overwhelming emotions that happen to them during this period?
So my so emotional experiences, I think, everyone, I think emotions are not bad. People should be able to experience different kinds of emotions. I think there is this whole industry out there trying to, sell products like, you can control your brain, control your mind, control your emotions. There is a lot of, everybody is stressed out, now you need to have, counseling. I think little bit of stress is not bad. What you need to do is to, understand that there is a stress, and it is okay to be stressed out. It is okay to be upset. It is okay to be feeling bad. The only thing is that people telling them that, people telling the kids that, no, you should not, you should not feel bad. You should not be doing this. You should not be doing that. It is okay for people to experience what they undergo. It is okay. So be there with them. Tell them that it is okay. Just by saying that it is okay, most of your problems will be resolved. But what I would advise, that don't take anything for granted. Like, say, for example, there's a lot of industry out there, a lot of people out there who is trying to take advantage of the vulnerability of the parents and kids. They sell products like, there is mind control, you can increase the IQ, you can do this, you can do that. Those are, from a neuroscience point of view, from a cognitive science point of view, it is bogus. What you need to do is to give an exciting environment, make them read, make them, critically think about stuff, make them ask questions, because the one thing that we don't encourage students or the kids is asking questions, because, oh, no, you that's enough. You make them, ask them, make them argue with you, make them, even if it is probably you think that not logically correct, it is okay. You need to learn it. That's how you learn a sport. How do you learn a sport? You make mistakes. You actually, keep trying. You practice. So in that process, asking questions, critically looking at stuff, it's a very important thing, rather than believing in what somebody is telling without asking questions. So most of our problems will be resolved if you start asking critical questions.
Yes, so very true. Actually, they are working on the minds which are placed at different places, and there are pressures from everywhere, from their peers, from parents, from teachers. A lot of expectation. There's nobody who can understand them. So,
right.
So when they can just label their own.
Yes. Right. I think some of the things that I kind of advise parents is that please let them be. Please, it is okay, to score. This whole, the educational system is designed in such a way that critical inquiry is the last thing to do, but rote learning, you actually start, this is the challenge that I see when I the students comes from the school, and then they come to the college. If I ask them very simple questions like, they have learned physics, but if I ask them to define or ask them to tell me a little bit about the idea of space and time, everything is gone. So because they have not critically thought about the concept that they have learned in the school, because the teacher told them to, this is what it is. Therefore, they believed that is the case. So if you allow the kids to ask questions, critically think about stuff, and have, arguments, interactions on those topics would be of great help.
Yes, sir, very well said. I mean, yes, this is the need of the hour where we need to talk to our students, our children, and help them understand their emotions. So that's the way they can probably do better and, prosper accordingly.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Jaison, for such an inspiring session. It was truly interactive. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. And the only advice that I have is that, guys, please ask a lot of questions to your parents and your teachers and piss them off.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Once again, a very good evening to all. We now proceed to the second part of the session, wherein I have the pleasure of introducing to you Ms. Diksha Suvarna, a very bright and dynamic young girl who stands tall and distinguished for topping CBSE 10th Standard Board exams. She is the first Maharashtra state candidate to have topped the central board. She has completed her 10th standard from Holy Angel School. She is the only child to her parents, Mr. Surendra Suvarna, a consultant, and her mother, Mrs. Rohini Suvarna, who is a banker by profession. Besides her academic excellence, she is a trained Kathak dancer and has participated in various dance competitions, has won accolades in the field. Her few other interests are drawing, yoga, and badminton. Welcome, dear, to this first session of Inspire 2022. So to begin with, let me ask you about your first reaction after getting to know about your results. How was the feeling?
I was really surprised after knowing the results. I'd expected about 95%, but 99.6% was really surprising. I felt like reaching the sky, and it was a proud moment for me, my parents, school, and everyone who has supported me throughout the journey.
Indeed, it must be a proud moment for your parents, for your teachers, your school. Yes, everybody, and including you, should be on the top of the world. Yes, that's the reason we are celebrating you today over here. I, from everybody's behalf, congratulate you and welcome you to this Inspire Talks. Tell us.
Thank you.
Tell us about your overall experience with the board exam in the pursuit of success.
My first board exams, it was my testing time of my 10 years hard work. So I had to work hard from beginning. Actually, during my exam time, my mother could not be with me because she was outstation with some important work, but her blessings and constant advices and last minute advice was always there. So I never felt left out, and I was well prepared because of my teachers' guidance, my parents' guidance for the exams. So board exams are always peaceful, but the very thought of it makes cause us fear. So then board exams are really a nice journey, and we never realize how it starts and how it ends.
Surely it must have been a really tough experience, and mentors are always there to make your path easy. As you already mentioned, they help you solving prelims papers and presentations. So yeah, mentors are there to help you. Our audience would definitely want to know about your board exam preparation strategy in terms of understanding the concept, your revision plan, your model question paper solving, all that you had planned and followed to achieve your goal.
Consistency from the start is important. Conceptual clarity is very significant. You should ask your doubts freely, be free to the teachers. Then I would say that focus on reading textbook thoroughly. Marks are given on the basis of points. So remember main points and don't be in hurry to answer the questions. First of all, understand the demand of questions and then answer it. Essays and story writing must be made attractive. You should improve your vocabulary, include proverbs, make your sentences crisp and short, and include examples. Make your answers engaging so that you can present it well during the time of examination. And most important is that solve previous year question papers. Minimum 6 to 8 question papers each subject is must before examination. So you will get an idea about board exams.
So attention, all the aspirants, time to note down. Concept clarity, problem solving, doubt clearing, presentation of answer, weightage for the questions that you should give, writing your answer in a very concise and a precise way, time management, most important, are all the key points which can lead you to score good marks, or rather excellent marks in your board exams. It is rightly said, no gains without pains. What were your struggles during this phase, and who all helped you to sail through this process?
Our batch was mostly from, it was a transition from online to offline. So 9th was all online and most of the 10th was online. So it made us a little bit difficult, but teachers' cooperation was always there. They motivated us to on our videos, so there was a personal attention. Though we could not have a physical interaction, but teachers' side full support was there. They gave their 100%. So my special thanks goes to my school teachers, first of all, who helped us and made our concepts clear, made all our doubts clear. Other than that, what struggles we face is that the current generation is mostly addicted to mobile. So I would suggest that have a restricted period to see your mobile, because now our main focus is studies. So you can engage in extracurricular activities, make your own hobbies, etc. That will engage you well. Other distractions are like, other challenges are like, sometimes we think that our time management should be like this and we make a proper timetable. But if we are not able to follow it, then we get depressed that why we are not able to do it. But I would say that constant practice makes it into a habit. So practice well, have a goal in your mind and keep practicing.
Very well said. So there are struggles in every journey that you take, and your mentors are there to sail you through. So accordingly, you just seek help from people around you. They're there to help you out. In what way did you unwind yourself in this taxing period?
It was a really taxing period. So I used to have various hobbies. I used to dance regularly. Every day, at least 30 minutes, I used to give for dance. That always refreshed me and made me more enthusiastic while studying. So I used to enjoy my study period, and whenever I used to feel depressed, I used to do my hobbies. Along with that, share your stress or anything, tension with your parents so that you will feel light, and even with your friends. That emotional support that our friends give is very important. We also used to have many Zoom meetings during the online period with our friends. So keep touch with your parents, teachers, friends. They are the base foundation for your journey.
So guys, indulge yourself in the activities that you love. Just go, have a break. It's good to relax. And there are people around, again, as I mentioned before, there are people around to give you help. Seek help from them. Relaxing at the appropriate time and followed by hard work is the key. So even she indulged in various hobby activities like dancing, as she mentioned, 30 minutes of dancing every day. So that's kind of a stress buster. So identify what is your hobby and how you de-stress yourself and indulge in it, guilt-free. What is your favorite subject? And are you taking this interest of yours in the future?
Yes, my interest is science, because science is like a deep sea. How much ever we want to know, that much is there. And this life is not enough to learn all about science. And science is most important, interesting part of science is curiosity. So I was fascinated with science from my childhood itself. So yes, I have decided to take it for my further career also.
Very well. So what next? Your next goal? How do you plan to pursue it?
My next goal is now to go into medical field. Right now, I'm a NEET aspirant. 2 years I will prepare for NEET, and after that I am going to decide my specialization. It will be probably either doctor or a researcher, but whatever I do, I want to serve my nation.
Great. So where do you aspire to be 10 years down the line?
10 years down the line, I want to do one of my passionated career, be successful in it, and get into the top class people in that career, and be a good citizen at last. Being a good human is very important, and the journey is big.
Very rightly said. Now, there are more than 500 students listening to you today. Any takeaway message for them?
Have a goal in your life, give 100% towards your goal. Even the best player don't know that they will play the best match. They just give their best shot and it turns out to be the best match they have ever played. So I would say that give your level best and rest leave it to the God. Everything will go fine.
Very well said. Now, audience, it's your turn to ask questions. You can put your questions in the chat box as I pass it on to Diksha. So please go ahead and type your questions in the chat box. All the success aspirants, please. Any tips that you need to crack your exams and to come up with flying colors? This will really help. This is the time actually you're interacting with the topper. Okay. Is studying 8 to 9 hours is necessary? Is the first question for you, Diksha.
Personally, I used to study for 4 to 5 hours, out of which 2 to 3 hours would be like revising whatever the teacher had taught that day, and the other was homework and revision of the previous days. So I would say that revision should be for the morning task. So it depends on the pace of the student. If the student can grab well, then they can have shorter period of time to study, and if they take time to understand the concept, then they can have long hours. It's upon your capacity and the goal that you set for yourself, the task that should be completed each day should get completed.
Yes. Next question. So, which subject was the toughest for you and which took a lot of efforts of yours?
Till 9th, my maths was really not so good. But after 10th, my teacher actually inspired me that I have to score full marks. So I had my mind set in that way that yes, I have to do my level best in mathematics. So I just solved all. First of all, I focused on my textbook on NCRT. Whatever the sums was there, first of all, I excelled that. And then I went to other books and I solved many questions. Though it was hard, I tried it from myself. I did not used to like if the question was hard, I used to think for 5 to 10 minutes, and then if I was not getting it, then I used to see the solution. So don't see the solution immediately if you don't know the answers. First of all, think. Then you will get to know how to think the answers of any mathematical problem.
So another question that comes here is, how long did you practice language subjects?
Language subjects is basically should be written and practiced. So first of all, see model answer papers, like how they write the answers, how is the presentation, how to give introduction, then the main context, and then the final answers. Then you can write it on your own. So while writing on your own, take a different question and write it on your own, and then you can check it with the model answer paper, like how much you are connecting with it. If some points are left out, you know that where you're going wrong and where you are not written the appropriate point. So you know where you're lacking behind. If you just write it on your own and check it. and even seeing many questions is important.
Any important websites or the material that you referred, which you think it really helped? So if you can share with our viewers, what was the what was the material exactly that you referred, or some online resources that you had gone through while you were preparing for your exams?
I was in CBSE, so the CBSE government used to give, there was one sample paper that actually they used to give so that we can have feel of board exams. Other than that, if we search on YouTube, there are plenty of question papers. So you can have any website. There are many question papers actually. I used to see one of the website I know is cbse.government.in. So in that I used to get many question papers.
Okay. So now more than 500 students are listening to you. You are an inspiration to them. So if I would ask, who was your inspiration before you gave the exams, or before you even started preparing for the exams?
Actually, I was like an average student. Nearly, I was getting third rank. But even I did not have that belief that I can score well, I can become first ranker. But my mother always supported me. She said that, yes, Diksha, you can also do it. So right from the start itself, she was supporting me. And that went on, and even everyone's support had worked hard. So I just worked hard regardless of the results, but the result turned out to be great.
No, your inspiration.
Yeah, my inspiration is really my mother.
Okay, good.
From start was motivating me.
Very nice, very good. So great. Any questions? Any more questions? So there's one question: how much time we should give for a tough subject?
So daily practice is required. You can give at least 1 hour daily. That could be enough for if it is a tough subject. Other than your daily revision, give 1 hour.
Hope all your queries are answered. Great. So before closing the session, I remind you to be mindful. By not taking your mind for granted, being mindful isn't difficult. We need to remember to be aware and practice it. We come to the end of the first session of Inspire 2022. We'll continue to bring you more such enriching sessions in the coming months too. Thank you all for attending and watching. Have a very nice evening. Thank you.